What's going on, guys? This is the Savage Gamer here, and welcome back to another reacting to Llama Arts. And, based on what I saw in my last reaction, I'm really surprised on how fast, everybody started watching it. Like, all my other videos, it takes forever. But apparently reactions are pretty good. So I've decided to come back with another one, because why not? And this one is a scary sleepover stories animated. And just to tell you guys, I don't notice how loud the stuff is, the videos are, or the games, until I'm done recording. And by then, I do not want to go through all of that again, especially if it's a gameplay. So I just wanted to get that out there. And let's move on to the video.
This happened when I was 15 years old. My best friend Anthony wanted me to come over for the night, since his parents would be gone all weekend. I rode my bike over and put it in his backyard before letting myself in through his back door. We played basically every video game he had, from FIFA all the way to Call of Duty, with popcorn and other junk food spilled out all over the floor. As the night progressed, we moved from video games to watching half a movie and getting bored, to doing prank calls at close to 10 o'clock. Anthony made a few calls to different pizza places. When it was my turn, I just dialed a few random numbers in hopes to get someone at their house. On, say, my fourth attempt, I finally reached somebody. A guy with a deep and rough voice picked up, answering with a yeah instead of a hello. Anthony's laughing in the background made me stumble with my words mid-sentence, ultimately cracking up into laughter. I had never done a prank call, so I sucked at it. The guy on the other end was silent. I regained a straight face and tried to continue with the call. It went something like this. Sir, would it be alright if I borrowed one of the wheels from your car? What's your name, kid? My name is Bob. Really? You sure it's not Anthony? It hit me like a brick.
Okay. Who would... Just a few things. One, why would you do prank calls? And if a man picks up with the deep voice and does not say anything after you guys just left, I would leave. And if you didn't, and he says, "Are you sure your name isn't this or that and this?" Just instantly hang up and lock every door in your house and window. Barricade everything. Call the police. That's probably a better idea. So, let's get back to the video.
I looked up at Anthony, whose face was noticeably full of fear. I hung up the phone, not wanting to be on the line with whoever that was for another second. Anthony, who the hell was that? I asked him. I don't know, he told me. Does your caller ID info display your name or something? No, it shows my dad's name. We hopped on the computer and did some research, trying to figure out how it was possible to get someone's name through their phone number. It didn't make sense how he could get Anthony's name so quickly. He was way too young at the time to be on any of those personal information sharing websites. We ended up asking a question on Yahoo Answers, since no one had a similar experience. The question turned up no answers. I suggested he call his dad, but he said he wasn't supposed to have anybody over for the weekend, so he didn't want to call. We planned on sleeping in the living room.
Okay. You shouldn't... If something like that happens, you call your dad immediately, no matter what. Well, call any parent. Call any relative that's close by.
So we just resumed watching the movie that we hadn't finished from earlier. Right after the phone call had left my mind, me and Anthony looked at each other when we heard his front storm door opening, and then the doorknob to the front door began to turn.
What?
It only was able to turn about halfway before the lock restricted it. Anthony turned off the TV, and I went over to the window to see who it was. I spread the blinds open. There was a tall guy standing outside. He noticed the blinds moving and turned to look at me. I practically threw the blinds back into place. Me and Anthony hid in the kitchen, listening for any more noises.
Why doesn't the
We heard
kitchen
the
have
sound
any
of the gate to the
blinds?
backyard opening, as it
Or
was
at
right
least a
outside the
curtain?
kitchen window. God damn it, I said. I forgot to shut the back door. Anthony urged me to run and shut it. I made it to the
What?
hallway leading to his back door, and froze. There was a silhouette standing outside the back door. I don't think he noticed me, but he was surely looking into the house. He opened the door and stepped inside.
Oh, crap.
I tiptoed to the kitchen and motioned for Anthony to follow me upstairs. We made it to his room as quietly as possible, pulling the door shut to
There's
avoid making any
cobwebs
noise.
everywhere.
We crawled under his bed. He had cloth covering the bottom of his bed, so you couldn't see anything under it unless you actually moved the cloth. The doors downstairs all opened, each one getting closer to the stairs. Thumps finally began up the stairs, and he was right outside the door now. The door to the room opened. I could hear Anthony's breathing. It was too loud. Footsteps moved over to the closet, and then the closet opened. I could hear the coat hangers being slid around as the fabric of the jackets and coats rubbed against each other. Footsteps moved over to the bed and stopped. I felt like my heart was about to explode out of my chest. Anthony's breathing was too loud. I had to cover his mouth with my hand. Nothing but silence in the room now. We laid still for so long, I almost thought he wasn't even in the room anymore. I moved my hand away from Anthony's mouth and whispered in his ear, "You think we can make a run for it?" He was about to answer when the most disturbing, memory-haunting scream I'd ever heard filled my ears as Anthony was seemingly dragged out from under the bed. I crawled out and saw...
Okay, if any of you viewers out there have seen SpongeBob, didn't that kind of sound like Squidward's scream in one of the episodes? It seriously did. Did Lama actually do that? Or like have the Squidward scream? Or anyway, back to the video. Sorry, I'm not talking that much. I'm very focused.
him struggling with the man. I desperately looked around for anything to use as a weapon. I settled with the screwdriver sitting on his nightstand. I hurried over to the man and drove the screwdriver into his back. He let go of Anthony as he let out a scream of agony, giving us time to get the hell out of the house. Running onto the road would give away our position too easily. It would take too long to make it to his neighbor's house. We dove for the tree line in the woods and took cover behind a bush, watching the house. The back door opened as the man stepped outside, looking around the backyard. He then looked out to the woods. I felt his eyes pass me as he scanned through the tree line. It seemed that it was too dark for him to see us. Then, he turned his head back in our direction. I ducked behind the bush. "Joe, he's coming." "What?" "Dude, get up, we gotta run." He was right. The man was approaching us fast. How could he have seen us? We ran through the woods with the leaves crunching under us, giving away our position. When Anthony tripped over something, I crouched down with him, hoping we had run far enough. Not even 20 seconds later, oncoming footsteps from the direction we were running from came fast. They slowed down only 2 trees away from us, as we lay face down in the leaves. Moments later, the footsteps take off in another direction. We waited until we could no longer hear them, and took off back in the direction of the house. While running, over the sound of leaves crushing and my heavy breathing, I could swear I heard leaves crushing from behind us. We made it back to his backyard, into his house, and this time remembering to shut the back door. We were now able to call the police. Anthony stayed on the line with them, while I patrolled the back windows, making sure nobody was out there. It was so dark, though, I couldn't see anything. So I did something that seems stupid today. I turned on his backyard lights, and immediately in the distance, over by the woods, I saw him, standing in front of a big tree.
Turn on the
He
lights.
turned off back into the woods and disappeared out of sight. That was the last time me or Anthony ever saw him.
Why?
I wouldn't be lying if I told you we heard the occasional knocks at our windows or something cliche. No, that was it. 5 years have passed and nothing has happened.
Hmm.
Do I wonder if it was somehow linked to the prank call? Maybe. Does it make sense? Not really. But yeah, this was the story of how me and my still best friend Anthony almost died during a break-in.
Okay, what would you guys do if that happened to you? Like, you were just running through the woods. Well, you were just hanging out in the house doing like a prank calls, and then out of nowhere, the person on the other line says you or your friend's name, and then a few minutes later, somebody knocks on your door, and then the rest of that happens. What would you guys do? I'd be terrified. Anyway, on to the next one. Okay, this one is called Trick or Treat Stories Animated. Out of all the times I've been trick or treating, I've never
It was
had anything
Halloween
scary
night of
happen to me.
2007, freshman year in high school, and I was with my friends, Ivan, Ryan, and Jesse. We were all dressed as the Super Mario characters. I was Luigi since I was the second tallest. Ivan was Mario since he's short and buff. Not that Mario is buff. Jesse was Waluigi because he's freakishly tall and skinny, and Ryan was Wario because he's just really fat. So they were the perfect spook costumes for us.
Yes, some friend you
We
are.
live in a very non-congested suburban neighborhood with a
I
decent
guess there
amount of
wasn't a lot
space
of
in
other
between
choices.
houses. On Halloween, that's the worst thing ever. Less bang for your buck. We were trick-or-treating for hours, way past dark, and eventually came the time when most trick-or-treaters were heading home. My feet started to hurt, and I had to constantly switch arms for holding the now 10-pound pillow sack of candy, but we planned on going until our
I
bags were
remember
completely
having
full. A
that
lot of
much
the houses by
candy
now
to
weren't
where it
answering
hurt my
anymore.
arm.
It was probably past their cutoff time for giving candy to trick-or-treaters. Approaching our next house, we saw a purple bucket on the stoop, which was the best feeling ever. I was the one to get close
Wait,
time for
did you
giving
guys see
candy to
that?
trick-or-treaters.
Hold on, look.
Approaching our next house, we saw a purple bucket on the stoop,
Look
which
at the
was the best
window.
feeling
Look,
ever.
you could see somebody.
I was the one to get close enough to realize it was empty, which was the
Oh.
worst feeling ever. I turned around when I heard a knock at the window of the house.
Sounds
We
more like a
all looked
door.
at the window. Couldn't see anyone, but heard someone call out, "Wait." The door opened, and an older man, late 40s, already balding, stepped outside. He told us to come inside so he can get us some more candy. I said we could just wait out here. He responded saying something along the lines of, "Nonsense, come on in, we'll get you your candy."
What the?
Ivan stepped in and said, "It's all right. Come on, Dan, let's go." I told the guy to take care and apologized. He just stood there watching as we walked off, not saying
What are those
anything.
eyes behind him?
I felt bad, but at the same time, that guy seemed like a creeper, and I figured I just dodged a bullet not going
Yeah,
in
don't
there.
trust anybody who says come inside my house
If
to
the
get some
story
candy.
ended there, it wouldn't be scary. So of course, it didn't end there. We skipped a few of the guy's neighboring houses just to get further away and continued on with our business. We were walking down close to the nature preserve now.
What are these strange things that are going on in the background? Do you see that?
So there weren't many houses around us. At this point, we were now walking back closer to Jesse's house. I noticed Ryan had stopped walking, and I turned around to see what's up. He said he heard someone moving from behind the trees in the preserve. Now, this was before everyone's phones had flashlights, so we couldn't just go searching in the woods for someone. Besides, we were just telling Ryan that it must have been a raccoon or something. You may think this is a bit of a cliche, but when things like this happen in real life, you always assume the more logical possibility. It's just natural. Why
Yeah.
would we assume we were
True.
being followed? I had to put my arm around Ryan's shoulder and nudge him forward. A little ways down the street, me and Ivan picked up on the sound as well. When we all stopped, the sounds of the footsteps from beyond the trees stopped as well.
Okay,
Ivan
finally a
yelled at the
normal
obvious
creature, an
stalker to go
owl.
away, or we would beat the shit out of them. I knew he was just bluffing, though.
Jeez.
I could hear the nervousness in his voice. The snap of a twig from beyond the trees triggered a fight-or-flight response in all of us. Me, Jesse, and Ryan all ran for it. Ivan was at first charging to attack, but he quickly followed after realizing we had all taken off. We ran down the dark street, and We all noticed the sounds
They
of
actually
at
look
least
like
2 or
Mario
3 pairs of
characters
footsteps
running. That's
crushing
so
the twigs
cool.
and leaves in the woods. We banked it hard right down Jesse Street when it finally came up and ran straight for his backyard, entering his house through the back door. The first thing we did was peek out through his living room window. We couldn't see anyone. We all had to gather our thoughts and discuss what the hell just went down in his living room, when all of a sudden we heard Jesse's backyard gate slam shut. Jesse dove to turn off the lights. There was a click and a bang from down in the den. It was more than likely Jesse's back door. We all agreed to go down armed with knives and face them. Jesse turned on his back door light, but there was nobody out there. Just then the front door opened, and we all screamed like animals. Jesse's mom and sisters came rushing downstairs. They had just gotten home from their friend's little house party. We all rested assured knowing it was just them. Jesse explained what happened, but made it seem a lot less dramatic.
Yeah.
Me and Ivan went home after that and called it a night. At 12:30 a.m., I got a disturbing text
more?
message. It was from Jesse. It said, "It wasn't my mom." I texted back saying, "What?" He responded back quickly, saying, "It wasn't my mom in the backyard." My fingers slammed the buttons on my phone, responding back, "What do you mean?" There was a long pause before he finally told me that his mom and sisters said they never went in the backyard. I told him to immediately check the backyard from his upper deck. He had already done just that. He also told his mom everything, and she had already called the police. They didn't find anyone back there, but Jesse did mention the guy who invited us in while trick-or-treating. Nothing ever became of that, and nothing ever happened at Jesse's house again after that one Halloween night.
What in the world? Oh. Whoa, that was scary. Well, I mean, it doesn't. Well, I mean, it makes sense. They can. I mean, you know what? Just on to the next one. These are very long horror stories. This one is called Nightmares That Read into Reality Animated. Well, I don't know how this is gonna work, but let's just see. This is a shorter one, finally.
I was having a horrifying dream, possibly the most disturbing nightmare of my life. I was in my house, or the closest thing to my house that my dream could produce. Ironically enough, I was in bed in this dream, or at least I can only start remembering past the point of my lying in bed. And all of a sudden, the sound came from downstairs. I walked downstairs in the dark, not turning on any lights, to where I thought the sound was coming from. I was on my middle floor now. The dream was telling me to go downstairs to my laundry room, and so I did. But as I got there, expecting the noise to be louder and closer, it sounded like it was just as far as before. Now I was going upstairs to the kitchen, and it's strange. Outside of every window was complete blackness. Not general nighttime darkness. There was nothingness. I think all that existed in this dream was my house.
Whoa.
Now my dream started to suggest that the banging sounds were coming from upstairs, so I went back upstairs and was eventually led to the attic door.
Don't go in
It was
there.
surely beyond that door. I opened it. There was an old woman
Why?
standing by a bunch of boxes. She was slowly but loudly slamming her hand on one of the boxes, producing an unnatural sound.
Why?
I tried to quietly step back away from the attic, but the old woman turned around, opened her mouth twice as wide as anyone humanly could, reached out her arms, began to scream, and leaped toward me. That's when I woke up. I thought it was just a horrific dream, but when I heard a bang coming from downstairs, a bang similar to what I heard in my dream, I felt my heart completely drop. On my way downstairs, there was another bang. It was the front door. I got the butcher knife from my knife holder in the kitchen.
Wait, is it me? Or does that knife kind of look like Michael Myers? Hold on. Oh, I pretty much got it exactly. Okay, back to
Through
it.
the window. there was somebody standing in my driveway. I couldn't tell if he was facing me or looking at me or not, but he was surely the one who was pounding on my door at 4 in the morning. He walked away down the sidewalk moments after he must have noticed me. The pounding on my door was the kind of pounding you would expect from someone trying to break in a door, not to get a house owner's attention. I thought it was just crazy and horrifying that the pounding and banging from this potential robber or killer didn't wake me up, rather became the key point to a horrifying dream.
My God. Yeah, that one was pretty short. But that does it for this episode of Lama Arts, and if you liked it, hit that like button, and if you're new, why don't you subscribe so I can do more stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.